What's up everybody? Today we're talking turbos. Alright, so I'm actually recording this intro at the very end of me doing all the work that I've done on this video. And the reason I mention that is this turbo that I'm holding. It was the turbo I was planning on putting on this car. It's an HX35. However, I've decided not to use that. We'll get into that a little bit more in the video. One of the reasons it's taken me so long to get this out or do another video on this car is just me trying to figure out how I want to do this. I've been having more issues than what I was hoping, but as you watch the video, you'll kind of see what those problems that I had are and some of the solutions that I came up with. When you're doing a turbo swap, the number one thing you want to do is get the turbo on. Today is going to be that day for me. Now I did already get the exhaust manifold back on. This is just going to be kind of a dry fit, a little bit of a test run to see how everything works together. So I just have the exhaust manifold hanging on by a couple bolts, and I'll see if I can get this onto the exhaust manifold. From there, I should be able to tell where I need my motor mount. So I real quickly tried to get this turbo down in there and fit it on the exhaust manifold, but the problem I had is this wastegate actuator. It sits right here, and anyways, it's right in the way. So I'm gonna see if I can fit this in there without it, and if I can do that, then I'll have to work on finding a way to make this actuator work. So after a lot of wiggling around and messing around with this thing, I did get it to fit in there. As I mentioned, I did take off the wastegate actuator, and right now it's only sitting on one bolt on where it connects to the flange. But this thing is very tight. I don't know if you can see this corner that's right down here. It's actually touching the frame still. So I'm just not sure if I like where that thing is. Down on the bottom, down on the bottom here, it's basically touching the steering column. I've heard a lot of people say that these HX35s fit in here and that they are a good turbo for this engine. However, there are a lot of different variations of the HX35 turbo, and so I don't know if there's a specific one that you're supposed to use. Well, as maybe you can tell, I decided to give up on the HX35 here. This is an HX30. I don't know how noticeable the difference in size is on the camera, but it's actually more significant than I was thinking it was going to be. But this, I think I'll have a lot easier of a time fitting into the car. The problem with this is it's very big. I mean, it was basically touching the frame rail, but the biggest issue is where this wastegate is located. How it's pointing like that. I mean, you have it hooked up in the car like this, and the frame rail is basically sitting right here, and so this basically goes right into the frame rail. So I could try to do a bunch of modifications trying to change this to make it work, but I just figured I'd probably end up screwing it up more than likely and cause more problems. And I didn't like the fact that this was basically touching the frame rail to begin with, so I just decided to go with the new turbo here. This turbo, I never went into a lot of detail on it, but I actually got it off of Rock Auto. It was, I believe, a 95 to 98 Dodge Ram turbo. Now, the thing that's interesting about this is they have several models of the HX35, and I went and did a little bit of research and looked at a bunch of pictures and things and stuff. because there is a lot of people that have used the HX35 on these cars, so I know it's possible. But the biggest thing I noticed was the wastegate actuator was not positioned like this on those turbos. It was positioned to where it would come straight out forward like this. And if that was the case on this turbo, then maybe I could have got away with using it. Now this turbo, like I said, it comes off of a Cummins. It's the 5.9 liter. It's quite a big turbo for what I'm trying to do with it. But like I said, a lot of people have done it and they say that this is a very good turbo on these cars. So I don't want to try to talk you out of this if that's what you're trying to do. But I would just say, do your research. There is a lot of versions of this HX35, so make sure you try to get one that is actually going to fit on your car. This, I haven't put it in yet. I'm going to be doing that here momentarily, but I do believe it will fit. Obviously, it's a decent amount smaller, and like I said, on this one, the wastegate actuator is positioned how I had seen other people do on their builds, and so I think this will work just like this. This HX30, I believe, when I was looking into it, is a stock turbo on the 4BT Cummins engine, I believe it is, which is basically the 5.9 liter with 2 less cylinders, and I think it's about a 4 liter engine. So this is still significantly bigger than the stock turbo that comes on the turbo version of this car. So I think I'll still be able to make pretty good power. I'm not trying to do anything, you know, super crazy, but we'll see how it goes here. So that's the fitment of that HX30 turbo, the smaller one. It is in there quite a bit better. However, I do have a little bit of an issue. You can see it better from the top here. This wastegate actuator, so it's hitting the frame rail right here. I have one of the bolts in right there, but to try and get it up, it's just really close. I think is take that wastegate actuator off, and I'm kind of hoping that if I take that off, then if the turbo was flush, it may be possible, but that this actuator would actually be above the frame rail. If not, I may have to just grind it down a little bit, but that I can work with. That's going to be a lot easier to deal with than the wastegate on the other turbo. So I believe that that is pretty close to the final resting place of the turbo. If you can see on the video, there's a little bit of a gap between the turbo and the manifold. I just didn't screw it on all the way, but if you look on this side, it's very close to the frame rail, but once I get it scooted all the way up there, I think that I'll have just enough space to clear it and to get that wastegate actuator on. I might have to grind it a little bit. The other thing that I'm working on is the motor mount that's going to go on this side. So if you've watched some of my other videos, what I decided to do is instead of buying the whole turbo cross member, I cut this piece off and just flipped it around. And now I'm going to have to figure out a way to weld it back on. It's just sitting on there right now, and then I'm going to have to probably find a way to get the motor mount and some brackets on to connect to the block here. But I think I should be able to make this work. Originally, I wanted to have a pass-through coming from the turbo inlet, you know, straight through here. I've seen some guys that have done that, and it looks pretty slick. However, the way this is coming up, I don't think that's going to work for me. But what I'll probably do is just put a 90-degree right off of this that will go up and around or whatever. I'll figure out a way to get the air filter on from there. But that's all going to be in another video. This is probably a horrible video, and I've already, you know, wasted enough of your time. So all that will be in another video. If you want to see that stuff, click my logo to subscribe. And as always, thanks for watching.